The Haunting of the Crescent Hotel. Nestled deep in the heart of the Ozarks, surrounded by misty forests and rolling hills, stood the Crescent Hotel and Spa. Its grand Victorian architecture exuded an air of elegance, but beneath its charming facade lurked a sinister history, one that whispered through the corridors and clung to the walls like a shadow. The Crescent wasn't always a hotel. In 1937, a peculiar man named Norman G. Baker acquired the property. Baker, a flamboyant figure with a reputation as a magician and inventor, arrived in Eureka Springs with grand promises of curing cancer. He wore crisp white suits and always carried a walking cane with a hollowed-out handle. To the desperate, Baker seemed a savior. Among his patients was John Tunis, a grieving husband who brought his ailing wife, Lula, to Baker. Lula was frail, her pale skin translucent under the hospital lights. John had exhausted every resource, and Baker's promises were his last refuge. Baker welcomed them with open arms, his silver tongue weaving a web of hope. But behind the locked doors of Baker's Institute, the truth was grim. Patients often disappeared, their fates whispered about in hushed tones. John, growing increasingly suspicious, began to notice strange things. Blood-stained sheets being hurriedly whisked away, muffled cries echoing at odd hours, and most chillingly, the locked room in the basement that Baker guarded fiercely. One stormy night, unable to quell his curiosity, John crept into the basement. As lightning flashed outside, he picked the lock to the forbidden room. Inside, he found rows of jars filled with grotesque specimens, organs, tumors, and even what appeared to be human fetuses floating in murky fluid. But what chilled him to his core was a journal resting on Baker's desk. Its pages detailed the horrific experiments Baker conducted on his patients, including Lula. She wasn't being treated, she was being used. Lula's condition worsened rapidly. One evening, she whispered to John.
He comes at night. He whispers to me, promises I'll be cured. I feel cold.
Before John could press her for more, she slipped into unconsciousness. Yet John noticed something strange. Baker's walking cane seemed to drip a faint red liquid. That night, John followed Baker into the woods behind the hotel. Hidden among the trees, he watched as Baker conducted a bizarre ritual. He chanted in a language John didn't recognize, pouring the contents of his cane into the earth. Moments later, a figure emerged, a ghastly skeletal apparition that resembled one of the patients John had seen vanish weeks earlier. The next morning, Lula was gone. Baker claimed she had passed peacefully and was sent off for burial. But John knew better. The grief-stricken man demanded to see her body, but Baker dismissed him.
Her soul is at rest now,
he said with a cold smile. He began hearing her voice at night, calling from the walls. One night, following her whispers, he found himself back in the basement. The jars were gone, replaced by a gurney and a single candle flickering in the corner. There lay Lula. Her eyes opened, but they weren't her eyes anymore. They were black voids, endless and consuming.
You shouldn't have come,
she rasped, her voice layered with others. Behind him, Baker appeared, but this time his charm was gone. His face was twisted, monstrous, his eyes glowing faintly.
You couldn't let go, could you? Baker hissed. Your love for her brought you back, but now you'll join her.
The candle extinguished, plunging the room into darkness. John's screams echoed through the Crescent that night, but no one found him. Today, guests at the Crescent Hotel report strange occurrences. A woman in a hospital gown is often seen wandering the halls, her face pale and forlorn. In the basement, faint whispers echo, Lula's voice calling for help. And late at night, in the lobby, some swear they've seen a man in a white suit, his hollow cane tapping rhythmically on the floor, watching them with an unsettling smile.